AI, I don't think you're going to have a choice. We're all going to be a part of it. And I think everyone's trying to race to figure it all out. And my advice is just sit in it for a minute.
In my world and in the world, it's humans connecting with humans. And that's what is that we're evolving to. AI is helping with efficiency, but that hopefully is freeing us up to connect at a deeper level,
right?
And build those relationships.
And I still believe that is the best way to create relationships, to do business. When you develop a relationship with someone and things go wrong, things are always going to go wrong. We own it. We're accountable for it. We'll fix it. And next play. It's really hard to do that when you don't have a strong relationship with someone.
Coach Bob, founder of the Visionary Forum, Visionary Summit, and host of Viva La Visionary, and very excited to have Mark Winter here. Mark, thank you for joining me.
Oh, I can't wait to have this conversation. I've been thinking about it ever since
This is going to be a 5-hour conversation. No,
yeah,
it's
it
awesome.
could be.
Yeah, right. It definitely could. They'll turn us off after 45 minutes. But so many cool things. We've known each other for 20, 25 years. Yeah. We met through EO, the Entrepreneur Organization. I want to talk about that. But so tell me and tell the audience a little bit about PR and your business first, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so kind of going back to where it all started.
Yeah, please.
So I went to Western for college.
Fight on for Western.
That's right.
Yeah.
Go Broncos.
Yes.
And in addition to celebrating a national championship in hockey last year.
Right. That was awesome.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
At the time that I graduated in 1986 from high school, there were only 5 schools in the country that had a dedicated PR program.
Oh, interesting.
And so I ended up moving towards PR because I took one of those tests in high school that said,
you should be.
Exactly. So there were 2 things. One was an FBI agent, and the other one was a PR person. And I don't know why they were so different.
Right.
But I did a little research into both. I did a day on the job at the FBI, and everyone's wearing suits, and they're all sitting behind a desk, and they're all with pencils down. And I'm like, that's not what I was thinking it was going to be.
Says
and they also
man wearing a
T-shirt.
Right.
And so I knew that wasn't it. And everybody else said, well, PR's, shaking hands, kissing babies, and one step better maybe than politics in terms of working on a corporate side instead of in government. And it felt right. Cool. And so I went through the program. There were only 50 kids that graduated each year through that program. I graduated in 1990 in the middle of the Gulf War, so it was not a great time to be looking for a job. So I took an unpaid internship. At the time, my parents lived in Grand Rapids, so I had to have a place to stay, and it was unpaid. So a high school friend's parents invited me to stay with them in Rochester Hills. So I was with his little sister and the parents while he was off with a big boy job somewhere else.
Right.
And so I spent like a year working for a small agency, and then got acquired by at the time was the largest PR firm in Southeast Michigan, Marks Lane. Spent 8 years there, and really thought I could do it better.
Right.
I kept seeing all these opportunities that were being missed. I kept giving input that wasn't being taken.
Right.
And finally, I just said, I can do this.
Right.
So I did.
Yeah,
so in 1998, I formed Identity. And I really probably shouldn't have. I had a 1-year-old. I had 0 money in the bank.
Right.
It was a leap of faith. My wife had been working at American Express. We took money from her 401k to be able to fund the business. So, it was a scary time and an exciting time all at once. But, what I knew I had was grit.
Right.
And so we had an opportunity to go down to Columbus to pitch a real estate client. And that real estate client would have really taken us to the next stage in terms of funding our office space and salaries for both me and my partner at the time. And we were really small. We were unproven, and I kind of felt like they blew us off. On the way back home, I made a few calls to some relationships I had at some of the media, the trade publications that covered commercial real estate. And I told them, I begged them, would they do a story on this company? And they both said yes. So by the time I got back driving from Columbus, I had 2 placements for this client. I called them up and I said, I know you might be thinking we aren't big enough, or maybe
so they hadn't agreed yet.
Enough. No.
Right.
Wow. So I literally, give before you get type situation, which is something I live by.
Yep.
And I tell the story to so many people who are always like, well, they're going to screw me, or I'm not going to get something out of it. And sometimes you won't.
Right.
I've had plenty of times in my life where I've given and not gotten back, but more times than not, good things come back to people who do things like that, right? So that kind of set the stage for our culture, for our core values, who we were as a company. And here we are almost 30 years later. I have 40 people. We have an office in Birmingham. We're just opening an office in Tampa, Florida. And we have a small kind of satellite in the loop in Chicago.
Right. That's awesome. So how did you come up with the name Identity PR? I mean, I have an idea, but.
Well, so when I started in the 90s, there weren't any firms in this town that didn't have the owner's name on them.
Okay.
Right. So every single firm, and that was really law firms, accounting firms, any kind of professional service, they always had a name attached to them. I had always felt when I was part of another agency that I didn't feel totally connected to it when my name wasn't, there.
Right.
And I didn't want to be the last name added on at the end as an afterthought. So I started to think about what we did and what we were going to do and our why for what we are and what we want to be. And it really kind of came to me, overnight one time I was thinking, well, what we really are doing is helping people build their identities, right? And so I looked for identity. I found it from a URL standpoint, which at the time was a little bit easier in 1998 than it is today. And it really created the foundation. And then later on, some of my teammates came up with the tagline, "Leave a Mark," and it kind of fits so perfectly with what we do. And then tying back to me, which it's obviously really cool to have my name attached to that.
Right. Very cool. So what is PR?
Yeah. So when I kind of graduated from college, it was very different, right? Like, so my project in college was trying to write a response plan for the Valdez, right? Like Exxon Valdez. Like that was like massive, right? It was an oil spill.
So that's kind of a spin, correct?
It's exactly right.
Okay.
How do we communicate?
Got it.
Either good things or bad things, and how do we manage the media through those kind of entertainment and or news cycles, right? And so that was that big. And so when I graduated, it was writing press releases, it was sending photos, it was announcements, it was transactions.
Right.
And it was, as companies were adding new products and new services, we started really with a lot of professional service firms and real estate. So it was really transactional, right? And our audiences were really just TV, radio, and newsprint, because that's all that existed, right? The internet was just kind of coming on. Social media didn't exist. There's no such thing as an influencer, right? And so it was really both challenging because it was compact. But when you had an impact, let's just say we got a placement in the news or the Free Press on Sunday, it went to like 1.5 million people.
Right.
Because it was so concentrated. If you wanted news, you had to take the news in Free Press. Right. Now you can get your news virtually anywhere.
Right. Papers are probably dead. That's a separate question. But
so today, we're built very different. We call ourselves a modern PR firm. PR really differentiates us from every other marketing agency in town and really across the country, right? There's digital firms that just focus on digital and social. There's folks who do content creation, blog posts and podcasts, right? Those are all
podcasts are a fad.
I don't think so. I think you're
kidding.
good. Influencer work, right? Social media. And so we say that modern PR is the combination of all of those disparate pieces and putting it all together into something, because it's all communication. It's all thought leadership, and it's all content, right? And harnessing it where you can do 1 + 1 = 5 is like the key piece to what we do. I think I get a lot of people who say, well, my nephew runs our social media program. My niece is the one who's writing our press releases. And we use Claude and AI, and they develop all this, and then we just send it out. And there are tools now that allow so much efficiency in communications. But the one piece that differentiates like us from other people is the strategic part of what we do. Because now you need somebody who can weave all those things together so that they're actually in a really cohesive and thoughtful way in how you're presenting it to the public.
And I know you fairly well, and I'm sure it's the human side, which is the strategy. So I want you to comment on that. How do we differentiate ourselves with AI? I mean, you say strategy, but how does the human component tie into that?
Well, I mean, you know this better than anybody, Bob. You're one of the best connectors that I know in terms of like reaching people at like the deepest level. And I still believe that is the best way to create relationships, to do business, is that, you don't fire people,
Right.
right? And so when you develop a relationship with someone and things go wrong, things are always going to go wrong,
Right.
And it doesn't matter how long you've worked, if it's for a year or 10 years with a client, things are going to go south. And how they're going to react to that is going to be
and
based
own it.
on
Right.
how you react to
Right.
it, right? We own it. We're accountable for it. We'll fix it and next play. It's really hard to do that when you don't have a strong relationship with someone. Right. So we go deep fast, and our goal, and it's harder than ever because people are moving every single day from jobs, whether they're doing it selectively on their own or they're being selected out of a role. And that's putting a ton of pressure on our industry and our agency in particular, because we'll develop relationships sometimes 2 and 3 people deep.
Right.
And 3 years later, none of those people are still there.
Right.
And so we end up being one of the most consistent things in our clients' kind of ecosystem, which is a very good thing.
Right.
But as we know, as people move in and out, some people have their own relationships that they want to bring in. And we've been on both ends of that.
Right.
We've been on ends where one of our people goes somewhere else and we go with them. And we've been on the other end where somebody new comes in and they bring, a relationship that they have built over the years. And we're kind of on the sidelines.
Right. And what I'm realizing in my world and in the world, it's humans connecting with humans. And that's what we're evolving to. And I believe we've hit the ceiling of complexity as a society, but it's about the humans. So AI is helping with efficiency, but that hopefully is freeing us up to connect at a deeper level,
right,
and build those relationships.
They're tools. We've always embraced every new tool that's come, and a lot of people, even social media, a lot of our professional service clients, when it came to blogs and social, they wanted to avoid it because they thought that there were going to be potential issues for them. And I'm like, well, you don't have to engage in it, but you have to understand it.
Right.
And so AI, I don't think you're going to have a choice. We're all going to be a part of it.
I think it's here.
And I think everyone's trying to race to figure it all out. And my advice is just sit in it for a minute, right? It's happening around us. And these tools are there for the exploration. And so that's what we're doing. We're in exploratory mode. We've had agencies that are our peers in this market who have gone all in on it, saying, this is what we do. We can help you with this and whatever. I don't even know what the hell it is yet, right? And most people don't, right?
And so, you admit that, which is cool, right?
And we're a PR firm. We're a marketing agency. We can help you with the strategy. And these tools are kind of peripherally all around us, and we're going to engage with them. But I can't hold it out as it's a service that we provide when there's tech people and other people who are way smarter than us on that front that we can engage with, and they can bring that into the ecosystem instead of us kind of saying we do it.
Right.
Because I think in order to do it, you have to be focused on it and be 100% all in on it.
Well, it's interesting because if someone goes all in on it, then it isn't about the human-to-human relationship, which you are so good at, and I'm sure your agency is, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think that we all have our place, right? And we all have our unique abilities, and that's where we should live most of the time. And I feel like that's where we're going to do our best work. Yeah. And when we do that, and then we're pulling from these other people who have these skill sets, we're going to see unbelievable results, right? Yeah. Versus being kind of mediocre at a lot of things.
Yeah, I think this is the greatest time ever to be alive. I know there's a lot of divisiveness and whatnot, but again, as we're hitting that ceiling where things are changing and hierarchies and bureaucracies are crumbling, and that's where the opportunity for us visionaries. But I think it's amazing. And I know there's going to be some fallout, but
I'm heading to a real estate conference this week called the International Council of Shopping Centers. They do it in Las Vegas every year. People come from all over the world, brokers, developers, owners. And, 10 years ago, it was all about Amazon, and we're all going to be out of business. And how do you out Amazon, right? And people there was so much fear, right? But it just took a minute for it to settle in.
Yep.
And what it created was all these opportunities for these unique retail experiences that we never would have had because people had to think differently.
Right.
You don't just put up a storefront and sell, your goods. You have to figure out a way to get people in centers. And that's why there's more restaurants and more entertainment and more other kind of things that keep people longer and linger in order to walk into a store and buy a pair of shoes that they could order online.
Right. So what's your target market? What does your perfect client look like? Demographic, geographic, psychographic?
Yeah, so we're pretty agnostic when it comes to industries, right?
Okay.
We are unique in that way. A lot of our peers, either they focus on automotive or their healthcare or their hospitality.
Right.
So we happen to be located in, the automotive capital of the world. And it's a big part of our portfolio, but it isn't all of our portfolio. And we believe because we have clients in real estate, law firms, accounting firms, private equity companies, healthcare, technology, because we have all these industries, they all benefit from the uniqueness. So a law firm that might otherwise not be willing to kind of push a little bit in terms of their how they present themselves, and maybe even just be a little less conservative, right, in their approach to marketing. When we're starting to show them things we're doing for companies like Hudsonville Ice Cream, they're excited and they say, gosh, how do we can't go there, but how do we get somewhere between where we're at now and that? And so I believe having that, unique kind of portfolio of companies allows us to be, I think, more of a change agent for our really vast client base. Most of them are middle market type companies. They're doing 50 million to, we have some Fortune 100 companies too that are in our portfolio, but they typically have an internal team that we work with. They're more sophisticated. It wasn't always that way. I would say when we first started the company, most of our clients were working right with the owner, the president, the CEO, but they were smaller clients that were spending $3,000 or $5,000 a month with us. And now our average client's spending $10,000 a month with us. And we have some that are upwards of 60,000, and we have a few of those little ones that are still kind of trailing along, which are great. But, as we've gotten bigger and more sophisticated, we've looked for bigger and more sophisticated clients because we believe that if we can pull from all the different pieces of what we do, the PR, the social, the digital, using kind of HubSpot, for our CRM and inbound and outbound, and then content and thought leadership, when we can package all that together, we can be much more successful for our clients. But that's time, and that time costs money. So in order to bundle all those things together and get to all those hours, we have to have a retainer that kind of that's consummate to that size client.
Got it. Cool. So so we're visionaries talking with each other and talking and presenting to visionaries. What is a lesson that you've learned as a visionary that you would share with the audience, that it's like, boy, this really changed the trajectory of either my business or my life?
I think once I learned my operating system, it was super helpful. I'm a visual person, right? I'm a creative person. Give me a spreadsheet and I can read it because I'm a business owner and I have to. But show me a picture and it'll move me. And so I think when I was first kind of got the exposure to creating a vision board, that kind of changed my whole life and how I've manifested my marriage, my relationship with my kids, my relationship with partners, and really my relationship with my business and its growth. Because if I don't see it every single day, it doesn't remind me of what it is, why I exist and what I'm trying to accomplish. So for the last 15 years, I have made vision boards for myself personally and for the business, and I see them every single day. It's in front of me in my office. And sometimes, Bob, I can't even, it's hard to articulate the things that have happened in my life that have been on those boards that I feel like, how did that happen? Like, I don't feel like I purposely even did anything to get there. It just happened. So whether it's manifestation, it's spiritual, it's energy, whatever it is, I believe the more you feel it, same thing with like positive attitude. If you start with a positive attitude, if you start being grateful every morning, you're going to be grateful during the day. If you start in a bad place, typically that's where you end up. And so that's how I operate. I know not everybody's the same way. You and I both have friends that are ones and zeros, and they would love to sit and look at how they can save an extra this here or moving this here and how that changes things. That's just not how I operate. But I would say for me, it's like find your operating system and figure out what it is that allows you to manifest and create those opportunities, and then stick with it.
Well, it's interesting because I talk a lot. And I do some things that are hard to explain sometimes. And so what I heard recently is don't tell people, show them. And I'm a big fan of vision boards. So I've had one for my life, for my nonprofit, for my EO forum. And excuse me. So I'm creating one now for the visionary journey and then what my role is. And I've been like, oh, I don't know if this really makes sense, but it's a story.
Yeah.
And it isn't probably for everyone. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of vision boards. So you do your own.
I do.
So how do you do that? Do you draw it? Do you cut out pictures?
So with the ability to have a printer and the internet, you can find everything.
And you're a creative.
Right. And so it started with magazines. It started with just piles of magazines and finding words and cutting them out. And part of the process of building it is like part of making it happen, right? So when you're going through that, oh, that's not the right word. This is the right word. That's not the right image. This is the right image. And the nice thing is whether you're using tape or you're using glue, it all can pull off and you can put something else in. But the one thing I've never done is change it once it's done.
Okay.
So I'll call it done and that's what it is. But I have changed and X things out because it's not a priority anymore. Not because I gave up on it.
Sure.
Not because I made a purposeful decision that it was no longer important and I wanted to put energy somewhere else on the board, right, to finish other things. So
I love it.
I'm a huge believer in it. And every time I've done the exercise with other people, they've had the same response.
Yeah, for my vision board, well, first of all, my subconscious, unconscious, my ego, my brain is going to try to figure shit out. So if it's like, oh, I hope this doesn't fail, or what if this happens, it's going to figure that out, which might be a little more negative, and it's good to be aware. But when it's like, what if we could do this? If we could, and it's the emotion behind it and the feeling behind it. So then even when I'm sleeping, it's my unconscious is putting it out there. And then whether it's bringing it forth or not, or I'm just more aware, it works. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I would say another one is just the power of yes and no. I was always the first one in the office. I was always the last one to leave. Right. I typically would say yes to anybody who needed something. And I said no to a lot of things that I wanted to do, but I had too many other things that I had accountability and was responsible for. And when I really truly, and part of that came when I was able to kind of turn over the day-to-day operations of the company to somebody else, and I can share more about that. But that gave me the freedom to finally say yes when I want to say yes, and say no more often, and really protect my time and protect myself, from things that I no longer wanted to do.
Right.
And I gave myself the grace to not feel obligated to do things that I didn't want to do.
Love it.
Yeah.
So when did you first realize you were a visionary?
So it's funny. I found myself really more as an entrepreneur early on in life. And so I was swimming in a pool at a neighbor's house. I grew up on a golf course. And I was in a pool and I got hit in the back by a golf ball.
Oh, geez.
They were on the third green. And it it bounced. So it's like it might have left a little well. But so the first thing I did was grab this golf ball, get out of the pool, went around the back side of the fence and gave it to the golfer whose golf ball it was. And the guy reaches in his wallet and pulls out a $5 bill and hands it to me. I go, this must be a really special ball. Back then they were probably 50 cents each or something for a new one. He's like, no. He goes, nobody would do that. I hit balls in people's yards all the time. I'm not a very good golfer.
Right.
He goes,
they'll swear at him and throw it.
Yeah. They'll call you names or they'll say, hey, that's my private property. You brought me the ball back. And I said, well, what would you pay for the ball, if I didn't do that? He goes, I'd probably give you $1 for it. And so at the moment, I kind of sat in it and I was like, that's a really nice guy, first of all, because he appreciated what I did. But second of all, when I asked him what the ball was really worth, he said he'd give me $1 for it. And so from that day forward, I kind of started thinking in my mind, I live on a golf course. There's got to be balls sprayed all over this place.
Hundreds, right? Thousands.
So that next week I went out and I found about 100 golf balls and I made $50. And the next week I found 300 golf balls and I made $150.
Right.
And I think I was 8 years old and I made $2,000 in the summer finding golf balls and selling them to people. And then I was sitting there, in between the holes with the golf balls, selling to people. And then I'm like, you know what? I can make more money if I'm on the golf course. I can hit more people, not waiting for them to come to me. And I'm like, so I strategically started to think about the business, right? How do I find more? How do I sell more? And then how can I add to this? And then my little sister, who's a few years younger than me, I set her up with a lemonade stand, and she was sitting there selling them while I was doing the golf balls, and I gave her a percentage of it. So it started pretty early.
Right.
And I've always, I think visionary always seemed like a really big word to me because it feels like you're kind of like higher than everybody else. Right. I think it's more just having a 360-degree vision of everything around you and being able to see a couple steps ahead. And I feel like I've always been able to do that, right? Always not really ever satisfied and always wanting more is kind of part of the DNA, I think, of any visionary. And being able to surround yourself, though, with people who actually can get the stuff done. Right. That's where the visionary fit in, because I think, visionary, if that's a word, integrators 10 times better, because those are the people who actually make it happen.
Right.
And so visionary by itself to me is almost like it doesn't fit my kind of ego and my personality. But when you put the two together, something very special happens.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I know you know this when we talk about when we're growing, it's evolution, and we're growing our business and adding employees and adding clients. And then when we hit the ceiling of complexity, we need to bust through that ceiling. And so that's what I've heard called revolution. And so I'm wondering if you have any comments. Are you an evolutionary entrepreneur or a revolutionary entrepreneur?
I'm an evolutionary for sure.
So that's awesome, because almost everyone I ask is revolutionary. Yeah. So tell me why.
Because I was an integrator before I was a visionary.
There we go. Okay.
And I was forced.
So you actually can get shit done.
I was forced to be. Basically for the business to grow and survive, I had to do everything. I'm not I flunked out of accounting, the first accounting class in college. Right. I had to teach myself to truly understand and care about the numbers. I surrounded myself. I think part of the reason why I wore this shirt, one is, we just got done celebrating Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah. Yes. And, but two is without people in our lives who support us and believe in us, we really aren't going to get to the next place. And so I've had a lot of those people. My parents were super supportive. I've had mentors that are super supportive. I was one of Gino's first, companies to go through EOS. That was life-changing for me and for our business. And so I believe that surrounding yourself with people who can make a huge difference in your lives, and being open to all of that information is critical to the success of anyone. And so being an integrator, early on, I had to fill in all those gaps in me, because I was a visionary that I wanted to be the visionary, but somebody had to run the company. Yes. Right. And until I got to the place where I found the right person, put that person on the path, and was able to let go of the vine to allow the company to run under her leadership. I was still in it, like I said, first one in, last one to leave. Right. In it, and once I got out, it created so many opportunities for me, for my partner, for, individuals who are probably tired of me, in their stuff all the time. Right. Because visionaries tend to be kind of hit and run, in terms of how they provide feedback, how they provide information. Right. So finding an integrator who can, I always say, you have to be able to decipher Chewbacca from from Star Wars, those crazy sounds he would make. And they're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Right. That was me.
Right. No, I totally get it. Well, it's interesting because I was looking for another word, and maybe I'm gonna have to change the name of the podcast, but other than visionary. And because it's like, it's a little misunderstood. What is it? It's a little egotistical. And so in doing some real thought around it, we came up with evolutionary entrepreneur. And when I've shared that with a lot of visionaries, people are like, well, no, I'm revolutionary. I said, okay, I get that. And I'm really good at blowing shit up. And that's where revolution, but I'm blowing shit up that I don't even need to.
Yeah.
So, and then maybe it's just, getting a little older, maybe a little wiser. I'm realizing just be a little bit more patient, slow down. And so that to me is almost all the ideas I've come up with are happening. It just took 20 years. Yeah. And yet I'll blow it up and I'll change it. And so it's just like, so what about being the evolution and not just blowing shit up? So I appreciate your thoughts.
It's okay, Bob, because I think, listen, it's the difference between a visionary being kind of VC, right? We talked about it. Right. 10 companies, one's a killer idea, and it's going to And then, our integrators are PE, right? They're like,
interesting.
We're going to roll stuff in. We're going to kind of be methodical. We're looking at the numbers. We're doing everything kind of by the books and the plan. And so they're very similar, right? They're both kind of growing companies and investing in them. One is betting on flyers, which the PE guys will never do, right? They're not built for it. They don't want to try it. So you need both.
That's a great analogy.
You need both.
Right. So you mentioned letting go of the vine, which I learned from Gino. And so it's giving up once we have the people in the process and delegating and elevating, and not just so we can elevate, but so we're giving it these things to people who are good at or great at and love that. And I find a lot of visionaries and people have a hard time letting go of the vine if they don't know what life beyond the vine is. So what does life beyond the vine mean to you, and what does that look like for you? Because I have a feeling you are living life beyond the vine, which is awesome.
Yeah. Before I talk about that, I want to talk about the process of letting go of the vine, because I think a lot of people give up on it because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's super hard. I can tell you I'm really good when I'm all in.
Right.
And I'm pretty good when I'm all out. When I'm partway in, bad things happen for me, and they happen for the people who I'm. So I'm trying my best to stay one or the other, all out or all in.
Right.
And I think part of it comes with clear communication. I don't have any desire to retire ever.
Yep.
From being a functional, like high flying business person, friend, family member, whatever.
Providing impact.
Exactly. Right. I'm going to keep my foot on the gas. And so I want to stay attached, but I can't be in it so that I'm screwing up other people's leadership. And I can't be all the way out because it's a part of who I am. Right. So I think the challenge for me was coming up with a communication system for my team on what I needed to know.
Right.
What I didn't need to know, when I needed to know it, if I did need to know it, right? And what meetings I should be in and what meetings I don't have to be in. And it took us about 3 years to get there.
Sure.
It took a while. And I was frustrated. They were frustrated. But once we figured that out, I'm super happy being out of the day-to-day in the business. I'm helping to kind of create opportunities for new locations, driving business into the funnel. I'm only on the front end now. I don't follow it through.
Right.
That was part of the problem is I would bird dog it, but I would be kind of attached to them for such a long period of time that I couldn't just dump them and then move off.
Right.
And so we figured out what that process is, and it works for me. It works for our internal team. And now it's worked for kind of us, in unity, which it took a while.
Right. And it's a lot of it's around trust.
It is.
Right. Trusting ourselves, trusting our people. Yeah. Which isn't easy. But
you go from filling up 70 hours or 80 hours of time a month to having 15 hours a week or 10 hours a week that are really dedicated to the stuff. And what do you do with the rest of the time?
Right.
Because I can't sit still. So we fill the time up.
Right.
And the goal really is to try to fill it with stuff that's meaningful and has high impact, not just for the company, but for friends, for nonprofits, for other businesses, to just feel like I'm still connected to that community, even though it's not all in on the business.
So what does that look like for you? So it could be hobbies, it could be health, it could be philanthropy. So for you, what is life beyond the vine?
Yeah, so the last 4 years I've been working on Tampa. So I've been back and forth there, working on our space, developing relationships in the market. I'm basically duplicating what I did here in Southeast Michigan. And it's going way quicker than it did in the beginning. I have
look who's learning.
30 years of experience. And, I'm president of ACG Detroit. So that carries some weight in conversations I have with groups in that market. I've got a pretty large PR and marketing agency to back me up as I'm going and talking to folks who are in the PE and VC space, the folks who are at the attractions there, they all want to be a part of something that creates an opportunity for them to touch other parts of the country and see other experiences. So I feel like, one, it's the momentum that the agency has that I carry into that market. And two, I just needed something fresh and different and new to inspire me to try to bring back the mark that was kind of the scrappy mark from 30 years ago. And this is providing an opportunity for me to do that.
I love it. And a lot of what you described, I would define also as community. So with the associations that you're leading, and it's leadership, which is amazing. And we met through EO. Mm-hmm. So tell me, how has EO influenced? And I still think it should be YEO, by the way. I still think I'm young
anymore,
I know, so. but I'm young up here. But anyways, I'm not the marketing guy. So what has EO done for you? And I know you served greatly for that, and that is part of that community and giving back and serving. So
I think at the time that I was president in 2013, I was the longest board member in the history of of EO Detroit. So I think I was on the board for 12 years or something. It wasn't because I necessarily wanted to stay. We just weren't having people that were stepping up to do it.
Right.
And so I felt obligated. And then when it came to the opportunity to run for president, I was like, I can change the trajectory to kind of move it to the next place, which, as you know, today there's a line of 5 people that want to be president.
Right.
The ability to be on the board is not just something that people get to do; they have to earn it. And so there were a lot of people that came before me and after me that helped to establish that and maintain that. But that organization, creating that community, like you said, and teaching us how to go deep, was something that I really didn't have, right? I didn't. Guys, especially, don't typically do that with each other,
right?
They
Be
don't
open and honest and vulnerable,
about,
right?
People aren't paying them, and they're trying to make payroll, and you're having challenges in your marriage, and how do you work through that? Or a child that's having some sort of issues, and you don't have anybody to talk to about it because you don't want to get in around the neighborhood or the school. And providing that safe place taught me a lot about myself, but it also taught me how to be a better, dad and a better husband and a better partner, and a lot of that came from other people sharing their experiences, which is what EO is all about. It's not giving people advice. It's sitting there understanding that we are all in it together, separately in a lot of ways, but in EO, it brings you together. So you actually get to give a hug, you get to give a pat on the back. And that's not just for the bad stuff. I mean, we've had people who have exited and had huge windfalls of cash that have come from all their contributions to building a company. They can't go tell their neighbors and their friends because nobody does that. Yep. But you can sit in a room with somebody and it doesn't sound like bragging because you've been in it with them
celebrate
from the beginning and celebrate it, high fives and have a drink and cheer for the person, right? And so I think at the heart of it, it's that community, it's that safe place, it's creating an opportunity to learn and grow together. I have one example, Bob, that during COVID, we lost about $1 million worth of revenue in the first 4 months. We're a retainer-based agency, and a lot of our clients, we're a nice to have. And when if they're an attraction or they're bringing people together, they can't market during that time frame because nobody's coming to their place anyway, right? So a lot of our clients were so gracious and so good, and they kept us on, and we moved through it. But some of them just literally couldn't.
Yep.
And so we were scrambling, trying to figure out how we were going to keep it all together. And not since 2008 and 9 had we ever had such an issue, right, where we were dealing with this. There is an EO member who wanted to remain anonymous that gave me a tip for a company based in Canton, Yazaki. They're a large manufacturer of wiring harnesses. There were all kinds of issues with regards to some bad press that they had from letting people go at the beginning of COVID and shutting down plants. And as you know, the Japanese when it comes to their reputation, they're very strict and they get embarrassed really easy.
Right.
And so there was a mandate that they needed to bring someone in to try to help fix that. And so this EO person had a connection with their lawyer. The lawyer had a connection with the business coach. The business coach was direct with the CEO. I got a call at like 10 o'clock in the morning. By 2 o'clock, I was having lunch with the CEO the same day. And by Monday, I started. And so we set a retainer that was 6 figures, monthly retainer, and it added back that loss like in a matter of 2 weeks.
Right.
And it was incredible. We had the client for 2 years. We helped them take all their plants down during COVID, safety for their employees on buses. I was talking to generals of countries and that were leading countries and presidents of countries with the CEO, trying to kind of move through the system to make sure that we can continue our manufacturing process. And I mean, some days I don't think I even slept because we were talking to Japan at night, and we had Europe in the day and in the morning, and it was but it was the most exciting, crazy, flow-filled time. You know, when you talk about being in the flow.
Yep.
I don't think in my 30 years I've ever been more in the flow than I was during those 2 years, because I didn't have a minute to spare from the things that we were doing. And I was not in the company day to day, so my partner was already running it. I had the ability to do that, and then I had 10 people in our agency that were supporting this effort. It literally probably kept us from having to let people go. It would have changed the whole financials of our agency. And again, one referral from one EO person that created the opportunity, who thought about us and me, in that instance.
So you trusted them to share where you're at. They trusted you, and they were present and saw an opportunity, not as charity, but as you were actually adding value to someone else.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, we talk about the vision board being something that's for us.
Right.
But when you say it out into the world, it creates an opportunity for people to hear it.
Yep.
And they're not going to hear it if you don't say it.
Yep.
Right. So I'm a big fan. When we talk about opening our office in Tampa, I'm trying to tell as many people as I can opening in Tampa, because somebody's going to say, well, my kid is in Tampa. They just graduated. They got a marketing degree, or my uncle owns a business in Tampa. Who knows where those connections are going to be? But you have to put it into the world.
Right. Yeah. And whether it be EO or in life, if I hear you have an opportunity or an issue, I probably can't solve it, but I probably know someone who does.
Exactly.
And it's that once removed, which is key. I mean, I don't know if Mark can help me. Well, you might be able to help me because I trust you and I can hear myself think. But also you might be like, I have a guy that might know, but be able to help you. And that is so cool.
When we all know a lot of people, right? And you don't have to go further than LinkedIn to see where all those connections are, right? That is a perfect example, a visual example of how it all kind of fits together.
When the hair stands up my arm, that's truth. One of the things that I'm doing, I'm going to do is, again, you mentioned I like to connect. I'm good at connect. And as our mutual friend Wes Matthews said, when we got locked down and we had a meeting, and he, at the end of it, he's like, not only am I good at connecting and that I like to connect, I have to connect. And that's where I think a lot of us are. So I'm going to do on my wall a giant matrix. So I know Mark, and Mark knows this person, and then they're an EO. And it's just to see the evolution and the connection is just so fascinating.
Yeah. I've got a question for you.
Yeah, please.
So you've always had this persona with kind of your necklace and your flowered shirts, and you really casual and approachable, right? So is there a story behind that, and even your jewelry, right? You've got there's something about how you present yourself in any single room that makes you be you.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure where it came from, but I think I thought I was different early on, and on my vision board, literally, it shows, and I had someone else draw my vision board, and it showed a 7, 8, 9-year-old, and it said, dispelling the adult lies. And it was a little kid pulling down Santa's, I hope no kids are listening, pulling down Santa's beard, and be like, you lied to me. I mean, it was like, what was that? And I started to lose faith in whether it be God or faith, magic, whatever it might be. And then I just kind of fell into, I'll just be like everybody else. And that was, all right, fine, I'll go to school, I'll drink, I'll do whatever, and just kind of fell in line with that. And that's a great question. I'll have to think about it. But I want to be different and unique. And it literally was when I started my business because it was, everyone's wearing ties. And so I had a few clients that I was like, screw this, I don't want to wear a tie. So I would just wear a dress shirt. And then I'm like, I'm going to be really bold and wear a Hawaiian shirt. And my brother even asked once, he's like, so do you want to go to the mountain, or do you want to go to Hawaii and live there? I said, no, I want to go there and come back and act like I'm still there.
Yeah.
And so it's a philosophy, it's a mantra, it's to be different and unique. And so that's a great question.
So you must feel better too.
True. It's a way to express myself, right? Yeah, and I do like to be. One of my past integrators said that I like to be noticed. In the past, I like to be the hero, which I realize that's too much work nowadays. But just to be different and unique. And I had another EOer that I coached years ago, and so I'm known for in the EO world and whatnot is Hawaiian shirts and jerseys.
Yeah.
And so I was taking this EO forum on a retreat out to Colorado to the mountain. And this one guy didn't know me, and I'm wearing my Detroit Tigers Schenefeld jersey, my last name. And he's like, who the fuck is this guy? Who does he think he is? And I'm like, I'm no better than anyone, but this is who I am.
Right.
And so, my whole thing, I matter, is to know and act like I matter. Yeah. And to overcome adversity, but to know I didn't know who I was. And so we talked about letting go of the vine. I was going through a relationship issue, and we've been running on EOS for a little bit, and it was kind of working. And I met with my leadership team, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. I need a little sabbatical. I got to figure some things out. And one of the greatest things that I heard, they were just like, we got you, dude. I'm like, are you kidding? And they're like, yeah, you've been taking care of us for 8 years. It's time for us to take care of you. So I took 2 months off. I checked in a little bit, but I figured it out. I made some tough decisions. And then I came back, and I'm like, I'm back. And they said, we're glad, but we don't want you doing all the shit you did before. Yeah. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? And they were like, well, what you're great at in love. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And that's when that's when I met my wife. And she's very spiritual, as you know, Cheryl. Mm-hmm. And she was funny because she actually worked at our company. And she was like, you're all about doing and status. And I'm like, well, that's the way of the world. And she's like, that's not the way of the world. I'm like, oh, you just don't know. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know. And so she helped me to be and to tap into spirit and be unique and be different. And that's when I Matter was born, which is our human operating system, which helps me to realize what matters most, clarify who I am, and to follow my North Star. And it's just little unique things. And so back to when I had my own business and in the corporate world, I would go see a client and I'd wear a hockey jersey. And they're like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm Bob, man. And I'm here to service the heck out of you. And my team is amazing. And they're like, you're different. You're unique. Yeah. So and then it's funny because then people were like not wearing ties. And then I'm like, well, so do I start wearing a tie again? So no, I appreciate you asking, but it's just think about the little different things about yourself. And you mentioned the vision board. When I am wearing this, I just feel different. And it's like, I'm going to Hawaii or whatever. So anyway,
I think it's a great, I do think it's a visionary trait to be authentic. Yeah. Right. And so sometimes that's rough because the authentic you as a visionary, for some high performing ones, that's hard for people to deal with because they're super demanding, moving really quick. But I do believe in order to get other people to follow you, you have to be able to be authentic to yourself because they have to believe in you. And when you're trying to be something that you're not, then they know that. Yeah. Because they're so close to you.
And it's the opposite of comparison because, okay, I don't have a cool shirt like you do, or I don't have the house that you have or the car that you have, and compare and despair. And it's like, I don't want everything that you want, Right. And so, but I love nice clothes. I mean, it's funny because people would be like, that's very casual. I'm like, my shirt's more expensive than your suit. Right. And not that it's about money, but it's authentic. It feels good. I mean, my Hawaiian shirts, some of them are 30 years old and they're still awesome, So, but what is different? What do you like to do? And to not be afraid of judgment. I'm sure you've heard of Dr. Doug Brackman's book, Driven. And when he first started talking about that we're biologically made up a little different. There's about 8% of us or whatever that he said that we have a different makeup. And part of it is imposter syndrome. And I'm like, that's not my problem. I've got a lot of confidence. And as we talked, I'm like, holy shit, I'm trying to prove myself to you and to someone else. But then I've gotten over that at least somewhat, that you may not. And I actually literally had someone that you and I both know that said, you could probably get more business if you dressed a little bit more professionally. I'm like, but not with clients that I want.
Exactly.
And I'm like, thank you for your feedback. But it's like, I'm not going to wear a fucking suit. Yeah. And we are allowed to swear on this, by the way.
Good.
So
it's funny. I saw Dan Isadoric on a panel the other night, and he just said that they had one, when they were going through their sale of their company, he's like, we had one rule, and it was no assholes.
Right. That's awesome.
And so you have to work with people you like.
Yep.
And that you trust.
Life is too short, man.
Right? Yeah. So I have one book recommendation.
Yeah,
you
please.
might have already read it. Have you read The Power of Moments?
I have not.
So Chip and Dan Heath are the authors. They also did Made to Stick. You probably heard that one.
I haven't actually. Okay,
so that is awesome. Made to Stick is a marketing book that that talks about how you build brands and build logos and taglines that are sticky, right? That people remember. This power of moments is all focused on creating moments in life that aren't already there. Right. So we think about birthdays and anniversaries and weddings and all these really cool moments that have timestamps on them. Right. They're reoccurring every year, right? And so why can't we create more of those? Why can't we curate those things? Right. They did one example of somebody's first day and at work. Instead of making them fill out a bunch of paperwork and stuff, at 4:30, the person at this company got to push around a cart that had beer, wine, and snacks in it to meet every single person because they're the hero. They're the ones bringing the beer, right? That's awesome. And how cool is that? Right. So created a moment for their people to engage with this person at each one, and created a moment for that new person to get a chance in a really casual way to go around the office and meet a bunch of people, right? So just one little example of how you can curate those moments, but you have to be, you have to kind of be thoughtful about it, and take the time to make the moment. Because other ones, we've all had them where they just happened, and you're like, holy crap, that's great. I wish I could have more of these. But you can, right? You just have to curate them.
I love that. And so I'm excited to read that. And I wake up often at 3 or 4 in the morning and get downloads of ideas. And then at 8 in the morning, I'm like, oh, that's a stupid idea. So, but could be the moment to say, what if I could do this? Or what if I could impact this person? That's great. And I appreciate that.
You've asked why people exist on this planet. I've heard you ask that on your podcast. And I honestly believe that I'm here to just set a great example for people,
and you do,
leaders,
by the way.
Thank you, for my kids, for my relationship, for partnerships, for friends, to be the best version of myself, because I believe kind of like throwing a rock in the water and it goes like this. It's
the ripple.
I believe the impact that we can have on other people is so grand, and it's the greatest legacy that we can leave is if we can lead by example and other people learn from that. Right. I'm certainly learning from a lot of other people all the time too, and I know they've impacted my life. And if we can just do that a little bit, and it lives on, it can be pretty incredible.
And you mentioned flow, and how I relate to that. It's David Hawkins' letting go, and being aware of consciousness and emotions. And as I acknowledge an emotion and accept it, I elevate to the next level. And so not only is that good for me to do it, but when I do it, and then I'm positively affecting you. So my flow is here, and you might be having a bad day, and it's like, oh, great. And then together we're doing that. And not only the people around us, but it is the ripple and the butterfly effect that we are making a huge difference in the world. And that to me is our opportunity, and I think almost obligation as a visionary, is to create that opportunity and the positivity and the love of life in those moments.
Yeah. And maybe that's part of the disconnect with visionary being so high above everything else, when truly, like you said, and you just defined it, it's like the connectivity of that is where the magic happens. Right. It's not someone way up here and everybody else down here. It's how do we bring those things closer together, right? And it's more about utilizing the skill sets from varying levels within the organization, and how do they link, right?
So life is so cool. And again, we've talked about, I think the main theme is relationships and connecting. So I just appreciate knowing you for 25 years or whatever it is. And I know when I call, you answer, and you care about me, and you know me very well. And we don't even see each other that often. Right. So that to me is what it's all about. So any other questions for me, or any other words of wisdom before we wrap?
Yeah, just, now you've done 40 some odd episodes on here. Tell me what's kind of been your biggest aha moment.
That I talk a lot. Yeah. So the first 40 episodes was mainly about the visionary seat. And that's all captured in AI. And so I'll put it out there. One of my next books is going to be Visionary Intelligence. So what's your VQ? And so I think a third of the book is going to be from those 46 episodes. And we talk, what's the role of visionary, and what was your lesson learned as a visionary? And so now that I'm doing in person, and thank you 313 Media and coaching me, Dylan and the team. And he was like, that's cool, but what if you actually made it about the other person? And it is about, and not that we have this huge audience and you're going to get all this business, but we have great conversations and we're capturing it.
Yeah.
And so to capture it and then summarize it, and then to me, community is the next marketing. I mean, that's my simple way of looking at it, that if you get a couple clips out of here and it resonates. And then when someone's like, hey, do you know a PR guy? It's like, hey, I got a guy I trust. I don't really even know what he does, but here's a few clips from the podcast. And so it's just a way for me to communicate. And I've had a few people that know me well. They're like, it's so good to see you in your element.
Yeah.
And like, I'll have a great conversation. I'm like, wow, we talked about a lot of good stuff, but I literally don't even remember what I say or what the other person says. So we're recording it. So it's just, I don't know if it's going to get me business. I don't know if it's adding value. I think it's adding value, but I love it. Yeah. And like you talked about, if we're happy, it's not just happy wife, happy life. It's happy visionary, happy life.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
well,
that answers
I'm certainly happy to have had the opportunity to sit with you and hang out. You're one of my favorite people, and thanks for being human. I appreciate that
Right.
because the rest of the world around us seems to think that that's not going to last very long.
Yeah.
I'm doubling down on it.
Me too. And we're doubling down together. So my last question, the name of the podcast is Viva la Visionary. What does Viva la Visionary mean to you?
Celebrate being a visionary.
Right.
Yeah, it's all about celebrating it.
Celebrating and elevating. I love it. Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. And great to know you. Love you, brother.
You too.
All right. Peace. We're out.